Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be talking about what is autism. So let's get into the video. Autism is a lifelong developmental disability which affects how people communicate and interact with the world. In the UK alone, 1 in every 100 people are on the autism spectrum, and there are more than 700,000 autistic children and adults within the UK. Autism is a spectrum condition and affects people in many different ways. Like all autistic people, they have their own strengths and weaknesses. People share the main two differences, which are social communication and social interaction challenges. So what is social communication? Autistic people have difficulties with interpreting both verbal and non-verbal language, like gestures and tone of voice. Some autistic people who may be non-verbal or have limited speech, while some autistic people have good language but struggle to understand sarcasm or the tone of voice. Social interaction. Autistic people often have difficulty reading other people, recognizing or understanding others' feelings and intentions, expressing their own emotions. This can make it difficult to navigate the social world. Seek out time when overloaded by people. This can actually make us appear insensitive, appear to behave strangely, or find it hard to form friendships. We also have restrictive and repetitive behaviours. The world can seem very overwhelming and unpredictable for people on the autism spectrum. So that's why we prefer to have our routine so we know what is always constantly happening. Autistic people may repeat movements such as hand flapping, rocking, or the use of an object such as twirling a pen or pencil, or opening and shutting a door. Autistic people engage in these activities to self-regulate. Changes to the routine can be very distressing and can make them very anxious. So not just for me, but the next section I want to talk about is over or under sensitivity to light, sound, touch, or taste. So for me, I have a lot of different under stimuli. So I'm going to talk about some right now. So for people on the autism spectrum, some of us are very different, and we may experience undersensitivity or oversensitivity to sounds, light, touch, or taste, temperatures, or pain. So for me, I'm very sensitive to light, touch, noise, and pain. I struggle being in places that are overstimulating, such as shops. Railway stations can be very overwhelming as I hear everybody talking, the noise around me. I can find it very hard to just tune out to one voice, and everything just gets really high pitched. And because I'm already heightened due to my anxiety, it can be very overwhelming for me to calm down and try to self-regulate myself. That's why usually I have things like headphones with me to help me block out the noise. So that can be one thing that can overwhelm me. Also being very sensitive at dealing with people being around me, so people touching me, people trying to be around me, next to me. It can be very overstimulating and anxious to the point where I'm just, get away from me because I can't cope with being around people. I'm also very sensitive to pain because pain for me, my tolerance is very, very bad. I feel pain very sharply. I feel it very intensely than anybody else. So for me, I'm not talking for all people on the spectrum here, but for people like myself who find it difficult to self-regulate herself and find it difficult to calm down pain, when it hits me, it's very, very quick. It's like, boom, and I feel everything. It's literally like, oh my God, like I'm suffocating. And I know a lot of the time it's not that way, but I feel it that way. I perceive it such as that I'm so bad that I'm overregulated, I'm stressing out, I'm anxious, I'm crying, and I don't know always where my pain is. So say I have pain in my chest here, I might not know it's in my chest. I may point to my shoulder or my face or down my leg or in my stomach because I don't know where the pain is at that time until I actually feel it and go, oh, this doesn't feel right. So yeah, pain is a very good, it's something that I'm very sensitive to. Also, that I'm very sensitive to being touched. So if some people come up to me and they try touching me, and they'll be like, oh, come and give me a hug, give me a hug, give me a hug. And if I don't know you, I am not going to give you a hug. That's just fact. That's the way it is. I don't hug people unless I really know you and I trust you that well and I get to know you that well. Because touch, it feels like my skin is going through electric shocks. It's like, and it feels like my whole body's just hot and pins and needles and panic, and I kind of stiffen up. So yeah, it's kind of, I'm not very good with that side of things. So next I want to talk about heightened interests or hobbies. So many autistic people do have intense or highly focused interests. such as these can change. They can be changing over time, or can be heightened. So for me, it's a case that my interests have been heightened somewhat. So I can basically have one special interest that can be permanent, or I can have one interest that could basically be the one interest that I do for the rest of my life. So for me, I've had a personal interest in politics since I was 11 years old, since David Cameron was in office, especially with healthcare and autism awareness. And then also that developed into me getting into more TV, so I started watching things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I still have that interest to this day. And I also watched The Bill, which is a UK TV programme about police and how the Metropolitan Police work and what they do to work with people, their communities. My interest in politics began at the age of 11, like I said, when David Cameron was in office. I watched the news religiously, including PMQs, which is Prime Minister's Questions. I like to be able to give my own thoughts and opinions on current affairs in the world. My Buffy obsession also began around the same time. I started seeing Buffy on the TV, and I liked the fact she was a tough female, the role model who let girls and women know they are strong by beating her enemies, and also hang around with a group of misfits at her high school, Sunnydale, but she didn't care. I can relate to myself in that a lot, because the fact is that I was able to be myself and know that I didn't have to join the popular crowd. It's all about being me and accepting me for myself, and knowing that I was hanging around with people who were different and people who weren't conforming and people who didn't want to be popular. So I can, in regards to her, I can understand where she's come from with that. So yeah. And then lastly, I want to talk about meltdowns and shutdowns. Meltdowns and shutdowns happen when everything becomes too much for an autistic person like myself. We go into a meltdown and shutdown because everything is intense and exhausting. A meltdown or shutdown will happen when we experience too much sensory input into the current environment. We lose temporary behavioural control. The loss of control can include shouting, screaming, crying, physical pain, or physical lashing out such as kicking, biting. Meltdowns often are misjudged as temper tantrums. Let you tell you right now, meltdowns are completely different from shutdowns, trust me. Temper tantrums are where you want your own way, you scream and you yell and you shout and you cuss because you want your own way. Meltdowns are when you lose complete control of your body, it shuts down, it doesn't give you time to process, it's literally boom, end all, when everything is too much, it's big, it's bad, it's frightening, it's scary. You don't know what it's like for me. When I go through a meltdown, you want to leave me the hell alone, because I don't process my emotions properly, I can't self-regulate properly, I'm very on edge about how I feel with stuff. And it's difficult because I don't know how I feel until that point happens. And when that meltdown happens, it's basically like, boom, everything's just, you want to just help me calm down, leave me alone, let me decompress, so my body can start to feel better, because it gets under a lot of stress. My meltdowns are more emotional than physical, because I tend to cry, I tend to shout, I tend to withdraw, I tend to just take myself away from everybody, let myself calm down for a few days or a few hours, and I'm like, great, okay, I feel a bit better and I can join in. But until that point, I don't know that's happening to me until I get that boom trigger on. It's like, uh-oh. And yeah, so I hope I've helped you understand what autism is from my perspective, in a more deeper perspective. I've been wanting to do this video for quite a while. I will attach some links from the NAS, which is the National Autistic Society, down in the video description down below. Please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll be back on next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!